For the recording, this is the May 23rd, 2018 Trader Vision 2020 User Workshop, and I'm Ed Carter. I'm the architect behind Trader Vision, and I guess I'm the guy that gets the blame if something goes awry. Today we don't have a lot on the agenda. I want to answer, some questions that I got via email just today, and that may help some of you as well. And I want to ask for some follow-up on an idea that one of you guys threw out last week, and I think was seconded by somebody else as a good idea. So we'll talk about that. Other than that, I'll answer your questions, and then we'll plan some trades. So hopefully we'll get out of here fairly early. First thing is, let's talk about a suggestion that was made last week, was that we put on Trader Vision. Let me just pull it up so you can see on Trader Vision how you can see we have up here the name of the chart next to the chart widget name. There was a request that we do the same thing for like trade log and for watch list. It might be the account that it's on. Account manager might be the account it's on. Same thing with goals. And we can do something like that. But what I found is that like a lot of the account names, like for account manager, let's say, you can type any type of account name you want. So some of them are very long. I know some of you have like 25, 30 character account names. And also some of you are working on smaller screens off of a laptop, for example. And so we want to try to accomplish both things. One of the ways that we have thought about doing it is by replacing the widget name like performance with an icon. So it would have this icon and then parentheses and the account name, or it would say chart, and instead of saying chart, it would be an icon and then the chart name. I wanted to know if these were just ones that we pulled out of our ear doing a quick search. I wanted to know if these, well, first of all, if that would be a useful idea. To replace the word performance on the widget with an icon. Same thing with all of the widgets. And secondly, if you thought these were fairly intuitive icons to make you think of performance and of chart, of goals, of your dashboard. I'm kind of torn on account manager the same way I was torn on chart. Trade log and watch list. A lot of these are just lists, and so the icons are very similar. So I wanted to get some feedback from you. What do you think? Do any of you have an opinion one way or the other as to whether or not you could recognize which widget it is, look at an icon instead of the words itself? Goals, yeah. Goals, yeah, I don't know. To me, my goal is to hit the target, and so that's the connection that I made. But no, I want feedback from you. If that doesn't, so the name is better. Okay. Well, in that case, I suppose that we could use a ticker symbol for chart like we are doing now, and possibly for trade log. But we can't do account like the account that you're in for account manager, because I know some of the users I've done some remote support with them, and they have very, very long names for their accounts. So we'll think about that. So I appreciate your feedback, and we'll build that in here shortly. We have already made a change such that you can only have a limited number of widgets open, which will help not only with performance but with confusion. So if you have one performance widget open, you can't open another one. Trying to open another one just takes you to that widget, makes that the live widget. The same thing with goals, the same thing with dashboard, and the same thing with account manager. You can have multiple charts open, you can have multiple trade logs open, you can have multiple watch lists open. So that will help with some of the confusion, and possibly for those of you who had many open, perhaps help with the performance somewhat. I'm not sure I understand the question, but let me see if I can address it. So, other than the performance widget, is a report available? What do you mean? Do you want to write a custom performance report, or you would like a report from? You can print out a trade if that's what you're interested in doing. You can print out a list of trades if that's something you're interested in doing. The same thing is true in Account Manager. You can print out the account, and so forth. I'm not sure what you had in mind. And by the way, we have in the development, based on suggestions the last couple weeks, a goals report that will allow you to print out a single accounts goals, as well as printing out a summary across all accounts. So I'm not sure if any of those answered what you were looking for. I'll let you can finish typing here. A printable report like the dashboard. Not currently, but I suppose we could develop something. I don't know how. I don't see that as hugely valuable to myself, but that doesn't mean it's not valuable to you. So it's possible to do that. And in terms of a trade plan, yes. So you open up a trade and you want to print your trade plan, you can print the trade plan if that's what you want to do. So that will handle that. And in terms of, if you perhaps were thinking of custom reports for performance, other than the 50 or so that we've got here, I don't know what the number is, 20, 30, 40, I don't know. Yes, you can do that. You would go to Tools, Options, turn on the report editing feature, and then you would be able to add reports and edit them. But it's a very technical process, and I think you might be better off to ask us to do it for you, because if you want to do it yourself, you can, and the documentation has been placed on the website under help. Tutorial videos has two documentation documents on that built-in reporting package that you can use, but it's very complicated. It's very complex. It's not real intuitive. So I can only supply limited support for that, but I will do everything I can to create reports if you ask for them. Okay, is there any other questions that we have, or should we just get right to charts? Okay, if you think it's something, we can come back to it, but I'm not seeing any typing here, so I will just go ahead and look at a few charts. So if I pull up the list of charts that I had, I guess, and I mentioned this in the trading room a short while ago, I find a bunch of charts that I like, but what I don't like is if I look at the market looks like it's been chopping sideways for 2 or 3 weeks here. That's the SPY. Diamonds is the same thing. The Qs is the same thing. We got a bullish engulf today. You might be able to stretch it and say it's breaking out of a pennant, but it's not a clearly defined trend for sure. It's just been chopping sideways for a week. IWM's the outlier, and it has been trending hard, and it's trying to get back up into the trend today, but it just couldn't quite get it done. So for me, I don't want to get overly long. But nonetheless, I've got a number of long charts that I liked, and one I want to talk about that I had pointed out last night, and I guess I had not realized this, but I guess Rick had pointed it out probably yesterday as well, and that's MDXG. So let's look at that. The point that I wanted to make is that discipline is your friend and sticking to your trade plan is your friend. It closed up. It was doing worse than this towards the end of the day, but it must have rallied into the close. But if you had not taken the profits as planned up here, you gave up 5.5–6%. And so that is the value of taking profits along the way. And it may work out for you in the end if you didn't take profits, but your job is to book profits and meet your goals. Your job is not to nail the high or nail the low. So that's just a cautionary tale that I wanted to point out as a good example today. At one point when I looked at it this afternoon, it was off 10% from the high of the day. So it was still a very good day, 11% day. Let's see, we've got, let me find one that I like best, I guess. AXGN's one that I kind of like. We've been doing consolidation here. This is at an all-time high. You can see that it basically ran up to the 23.6 extension after this first long run here, and a little pullback. So that's kind of what I expected. I would be looking to set up a trade plan here on a pop out of the box or consolidation breakout if you prefer. I would probably be looking for a breakout there. See what having a stop just below the box would do for me. Yeah, let's set this up. Probably going to have a target up here at 61.8. And let's just see what that trade plan would do for us. So we're talking about a 45.30 entry. With a, let's call it 42.25 stop, and 51.50 target. Let's do a trade plan here. Okay, so we've got the bullish engulfing today. We've got earnings out of the way. We've got several patterns working for us here. Higher highs and higher lows and so forth. We've got the short-term market bias in our favor, but not the long-term. We're grinding sideways. And we've got the long-term ticker bias, but not the short-term. We're in that consolidation. We do have the T-line above the 34, and we do have plenty of liquidity. So let's look at what a trade plan might look like. I think I said 45.30 with a 51.50 target and a 42.25 stop. Oh, it says I can only buy 40 shares here. Let's go wild, call it 100. See how big that would make it. Still only 3.5% of the account, but I'm risking $305 if I'm stopped out, with that stop being basically $3.05 below the entry. So what would be the upside if we get there? We're looking at $620, about 13.5–14%. So more than makes my goal, and it does give me a 2-to-1, but that is a fairly high risk. So this one is going to be on the edge for me, and we'll have to look at that to see whether or not that would be the best trade available to me tomorrow. But that's a trade plan that I would look at. You might be able to tighten the stop up just a little bit. You might be able to get a better entry just a little bit and still be getting a breakout. But basically, your numbers are going to be like this. It's a little over 2-to-1, chance to make 600 plus bucks on a 350 goal for this account by risking 4,500 bucks, which is 3.5%. Let's see what other charts I had here. Sohu's one, it's basically the same story. We've got, and this one is a rounded bottom breakout, but you can see that we've got, I gotta come over here. So we've broken out today on a bullish engulfing signal of this consolidation after a strong run up and a rounded bottom breakout. Looks to me like the beginning of this gap is the first potential resistance that we're looking at, and yes, that is a valid level. POC, I'll look at that here in just a minute. And then up here, you can see this is a pretty obvious one up here, about 43, and I dropped the line at 78. Again, these are meant to be areas, not exact points. So let's say that we retest and then bounce up off of it. So my trigger is not that it pulls back, it's not that it runs, it's that it retests this and then goes. Oops, wrong line. So that would be my trade rule, something in here with a stop, again, tight below that proven support here off of these highs, these highs, these highs back in here, and even close enough to those lows, that low there. So there's clearly a little channel here between those two levels. And I'll put the next line up there, and then maybe we fill the gap. Something like that. So this would be an entry. Let's make it green. This would be a stop. Let's make it red. And see what we're looking at here. So the stop is about 35.25. The entry is about 37.35. The first target is about 41.50. And the second target up here about 43.75. Let's do a plan. Okay, so we've got earnings out of the way again. We've got that bullish engulfing. We've got some patterns in our favor. We've got the short-term biases working for us, and we've got the relationship working for us. Plenty of liquidity. Let's do one plan, one entry and two exits. What did I do? I'm going to have to check into that. So let's add an entry. $37.35. And then let's add an exit. And I said 41.50 for the first one. And add an exit. $43.75 for the second one, and then add a stop. And that stop was 35.25. So what would this do for us? It says I can buy 59 shares. Again, let's take it to 100. It's less than 3% of the account, risking 210 bucks. That's a little better than the 300 we were risking in the other trade. If we were to sell it all at this first stop, we'd be getting just under 2 to 1. So let's just sell half of it here and see what happens if we sell the other half at that second stop. And that'll help us a little bit. We're up at 2.5 to 1. So that trade plan works better with this second stop or second exit in place. Now back to your question. When I click the print icon in trade log for a planned trade, nothing happens as setup required. Well, let's just look at the first trade we planned today. Just let me see if I've got it running. No, it doesn't show the printing. That may be a bug, Pac. I'll have to look into it. Print trade log disabled. I will look into that for you. It's worked before. I'm not sure what has disabled it, but something has. I'm not sure why. But I have tested that here not too long ago. I see you typing, but I'll go back to the chart while I wait for you to finish typing. Gov is breaking out of a J hook or a scoop, depends how you want to call it. Doesn't really matter. It's a nice consolidation area that it has went back down and retested the 50 and then popped up and is breaking out here. We've got about, what was that, 8% or something? 9.5% up to this next little area there. And that next little area is, in fact, a valid resistance level or potential resistance level. And then you can see how we've got a level defined up here above. So let's see what a trade plan would look like for this sucker. Well, let's do it above today's close with the stop down below these lows here. What does V stop tell us, just to check? 1361. So we're actually lower than V stop says, so we could adjust this up a bit and still be above the V stop, or below the V stop. We put our first target in here and the second target in there. Yeah, okay, Pac. I'll look into it. So we're looking at an entry here of, let's call it 1410. With a stop of, what did I say, 1360. And a 1540. First target with a second target of 16 and a quarter. Looks like earnings are out of the way. Similar situation to the others. And let's, I think I said 2 targets. Let's just do it this way. 1 entry, 1 exit. So the entry was 1410. The target was 1540. The stop was 1360. And let's add another exit and put that one at 16 and a quarter. It says we can do 250 shares. Let's go ahead and do 250 shares. That would be less than 3% of the account. Keeps us right at 125 excuse me, $125 of risk to a stop. If we sold 100 of it at this first target, it gives us 2.6 to 1, but only makes us 130 bucks. Excuse me, I need to get a drink. Okay, and if I sell the other 150 here, overall the trade would go to about 3.6. We can adjust this, play with it. Let's let's just reverse it. Let's sell 150 at the first target. It reduces our overall gain a little bit, but it books us our 195 bucks quicker. So, excuse me. That may be a better plan. And you can play with these scenarios. The idea, of course, you should know is that if you know the scenarios, you know the dollars and percentage involved with it, and you know where you want to, you've made a conscious decision when there's no bullets flying, you know where things should set up, and that will lessen your emotions during the trade. Okay, so we've gone through about 3 of mine. Let's see if there's any others that I really loved. Into it, you can see a lot of these are doing the same thing. We've been on a strong trend for a long time, been consolidating here at all-time highs, and we put in a bullish engulfing signal today. So that's one you can look at, but it's a $200 stock, so I'm gonna pass on that. It's probably an options trade. Gap is one I've been looking at. Same story as the others. Nice run, consolidation. I would be looking for a breakout buy, whereas about 8.5% into the next resistance, and then about 17.5%, 18% into the second resistance above off of the weekly. And for a longer term trade, you might even make this a third level someplace in there. And it's pretty close, about 40 bucks. So that might be one worth trading. Again, you can get in front of it by using a breakout buy. And use this support level there as in the bottom of your box as support for your stop. First target, second target. You guys get your tickers ready. This will be the last one of mine that we'll plan. So we'll look at yours after that. I'm looking at about let's call it 32.10. Today closed at 31.98, so 32.10 as your entry and 31.30 as your stop. With a first target up here about 34.85 and a second target up here about 37.80 or something like that. Let's see how that would plan out. Okay, Pac, thank you. I will look into it. You know that I'm fairly good about following up on things. So, what ticker was I looking at? Gap. Okay, GPS. Uh, 3-1. So this should report around June 1st. That makes me nervous, and when I'm nervous, I go over here and check another source. GPS earnings date. Yee. Okay. Well, this one might be something. It says NASDAQ says they report after the close tomorrow. I'm not sure why. I've got nothing from my data feed, but it says they report after the close tomorrow. So on that chart, wait for tomorrow's candle and then look for a breakout the next day. So we'll continue planning it out, but just be aware of that. And let's just change this. 524 2018. And let's do, what did I say? Okay, so let's do 32.10 entry, 34, 85, 37.80, and 31.30 as the stop. Says we can do 150 shares, 156. Let's see what that does. It's probably not much of a position. It's 3. Okay, that's going to work. And let's see what selling 75 at the first stop would do for us. Gives us 3.4 to 1 and $200. What happens if I had to sell it all here? Should give me my $400, I think. Yeah, if I had to sell it all at that first target, I could still make my goal. So I would probably get closer to my goal as quick as I can and just let the 50 ride. So on this trade, I'm risking 120 to have a shot at making 560. And risking a little under 4% of my account, but I like that one. Again, with the earnings, this is not something I would trade tomorrow no matter what, but the following day we'll see how it shakes out. It should break out of that consolidation either way the following morning. So we'll see if that would set up for you or not. It may, or you don't chase. If it gaps up, you let it go. But that's one that may set up for you. So that's the gap trade. Okay, enough of my tickers. Let's see if you guys have anything that you want to look at. Nothing? Nobody brought any tickers? Okay. So you're already long on 70 delta. Okay. Okay, so you're long. You've got 80 days to expiration. You've got a 70 delta, which I guess is a 70 call. So you're long from down in here someplace. Yeah, pretty close. And you've already booked some profit, so you're thinking about going long the stock. Is that what you're saying? For a second position? Is that basically what you're saying? Or are you just thinking, well, you got 80 days, you can't exercise yet. So I guess that's what you're talking about. Let's look at a weekly. You can see that at a weekly, this is someplace in here is a valid resistance level. So it's got to prove itself there. This is a piercing candle today, but it's not really proven anything quite yet. I don't like piercing candles, or I don't consider them it's not a signal in my repertoire. I recognize them. It is, in the books, but I just don't trade them. They're not powerful enough for me. The bulls haven't shown me as much as I want to see yet here. So on a breakout here, so if you break that $78 level, and let's just get rid of this, sure, I could see a position, a stock position here. I would probably put my stop someplace down in here. And let's see what V-stop says today. 74.91. So not, just a touch below where I put mine. Okay, fine. We'll move it down. And where are we going to put our targets? I guess I'm probably going to go off of this as one set of targets. We did a 50% pullback on that revision, so I'm probably going to be looking at the 23.6. And then maybe counting on this trend to continue. If this is a longer term position, which I'm thinking it is based on how far out you were buying your options, maybe looking for a 61.8 up in here for a longer term target. So that's the kind of thing I would plan. So my entry would be here. My stop would be there. And I'm not sure that he may be able to get this audio later, but I think he's at work right now. For the rest of you, pull this up. Come on. Okay, they've got earnings out of the way. Very bullish chart. You can see it's the piercing candle. We've got some things going for us. Let's just look at those two exits, which of course I did not write down. So an entry of about 78, let's call it 10. The stop about 74.95. And a first target of 82.30. And a second target of 88.90. Whoops, I did that wrong. 74.95, 78.10, 82.3, and 88.9. Let's look at 40 shares here, because for this account it's small, but yeah, okay, let's go to 100. It's going to be big. Yeah, but just for argument's sake, for planning purposes, if you sold half of it at the first target, you're only getting 1.3 to 1, so that's not going to work for me, just based as we laid it out there. If you've got some other targets in mind, I'd like to know how you set them. But nothing else obvious sticks out to me. But with a 50% pullback on that last run, major run, that's what I would look at as the 23.6. So for me, this is a non-starter. But perhaps with options, you might be able to get an options play where you get the leverage and can make the numbers work. But for me, just the reward to risk isn't good enough at that first target. It's only 5%. So for what it's worth, that's how I look at that chart, Malcolm, and I hope that helps. Does anybody else have any other tickers? If not, we'll call it a day here with Philippe. You want to look at Z? It's a nice candle. Obviously, that's some people would call it a left-right combo. Some people would call it. Okay, Malcolm, thanks for coming. Have a great rest of your afternoon or whatever it is there. 6-7 hours behind me. Nice bullish engulfing of a doji. Some people would call that a left-right combo. Breaking through the 50. Let's see if we can't draw some lines in it. Let's go to a weekly. Weekly, the trend looks like that to me. And there might be a level right in there. Let's go back to the daily. I think I might move that down right here. Across all those. It's someplace in there. But I do think there's a possibility of some resistance there. Probably not extremely strong. We've only tested it, I guess, one major time, but 4 days. Let's see what would happen if I put some fibs on this run. Oddly, that goes right up there. So we did a 50% pullback. I would be looking for 23.6, which is right there, as my target. So if I were to enter, possibly on a little inside day tomorrow, let's get a inside day where we can buy. Let's just say we buy right there at 54 bucks. Where are we going to put our stop? Are we going to put it down here? V-stop says we should be at 51.99, which is pretty close to where I had it, actually a little bit above it. So right in here is where the V-stop says. And let's pull that down just to be conservative. Let's see what that looks like. Entry. Stop. And so we've got a 54.10. And what did I say? 51.77. Is that right? Let's call it 51.95. And a target up here of 58.95. Earnings are out of the way. Not sure why that did not register as a bullish engulf, but it didn't. And I will need to look into that. There should be a pullback as well. I'm not sure what's going on there. I will look into that. That's right, candle. Okay. And I guess I only did one exit, so let's do that. With a 54.10 entry and a 51.95 stop and a 58. It's not going to work, I'm sure. Let's just do 50 shares for grins. Still doable. So we're risking 4% for a chance to make just under 9%. It might be doable. That might be doable. It's not great for sure, but it's doable. You do have a potential $215 loss. You're risking $215 to make $485, but it might be doable. Okay, let's just do a couple more. These will be the last two, Bob. Teva, I think that's an Israeli. Again, we've got a piercing candle. Nothing there on the weekly. We fell off a cliff back here in last summer. So we've got the same story basically as we talked about earlier today, and I'm going to treat it the same way, or I would if I was trading it. I'm going to look for a buy on a breakout of the box with a stop tight below the box. What does VStop say? VStop says that should be at 2032, which would be way down here. Nonetheless, that's where I would put mine. And I would have a target up here. So I don't think this is going to work. That's not 2-to-1 by any stretch of the imagination. So what that means is you have to be able to say that on a weekly chart, where did I get that? Let's do a monthly chart. Somehow or other, I got that. Yeah, I guess I got it off a monthly chart someplace in there. That's where that target comes from. And let's see. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. Okay, so those are the, doggone it. Those are the levels I would look at, and so we're talking about risking initially 4 1/3% for a chance to make 6 1/4%. Well, is Buffett going to tell you before he sells? Or, you know, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not a long-term, I'm not buying the company. And so I don't care if Buffett is really an owner or says nice things about them or anything of that nature. The reason is that he and I have completely different time frames, completely different sets of pocket money, and I'm never going to know what he does until a quarter after the fact when he reports it. So that's kind of something that kind of information I just let go. Yeah, that sounds like something he would do. Um, he's got like a 10-year time frame. And so probably he saw this great waterfall and said, there's value here, and someday they will bring me money. That's just is what I understand of his approach. Let's look at SIG here. You can see that this is a level. You can see that this is a level someplace in here. And probably the beginning of the gap. Let's go to a weekly and see if there's anything out here that corroborates. That one's corroborated. This one, you can move it up, you can move it down, but it's pretty close there to being right. Let's just leave it where it's at for now. Go back to the daily and say, what are we looking at here? It's not really, but it's kind of close to what somebody would call a trader's best friend. So it's kind of a doji, and it's really more of a hammer, not a doji, but it's kind of an indecisive candle, then a little gap up, but we do have lower wicks and upper wicks that make this not really a big green candle, big bullish candle. So let's take that signal off the board, but let's say it's a breakout of this consolidation at any rate. So if you could get a retest and buy somewhere around where it's at now, let's maybe even get a slightly better price. If you could put it, I hate this thing when it does that. Where's V-stop supposedly set? 39.54. So it's not too far below where I was at. Basically counting on support from this to protect it. And a first target up here. And a second target up there. So let's say that we're buying at 41 and stopping at, what did I say, 39, let's just call it 60, 43.75, maybe 43.80 even. And then 47.60. Will that work? I think it's at 80 and 43 or 47.60, and the stop was 39.60. Would help if I put in a ticker. Again, I want to check the earnings on that. Something doesn't seem right. It should report about June 15th, but let's just check if there's any guesstimates out there. My source doesn't have any yet. No. It did report 525 of last year, but that's all we're showing. I've got an estimate here. It says they report 6.6, so let's assume that that's right. We'll assume they keep the pattern of being before market open. Okay, it says we can buy 90 shares almost, so let's go 100. It's 3% of the account, and we're risking 3.4% to make exactly 2 to 1 at the first target, and another total of 3.36 to 1 for the trade if we hit the second target. So we could play with those numbers, but it's marginal. It gives us 2 to 1 at the first target, which is what I'm looking for. It does make us 470, which beats the goal, assuming we make that second target. So that's what we'll stick with. Okay, guys, I see that there's some tickers, and I'll hang around and answer them, but I want to close out the recording for now. So let me go back here and thank everybody for coming this afternoon, and also let you know that you can contact me at ed@tradervision2020.com or through the application support@tradervision2020.com, or submit a support ticket, which sends me an email to that address. Anybody who's interested in the buying link, it's on the website, or I can whoops, can't copy it off of that. I'm sorry. And the download is api.tradervision2020.com /API/v1/latest_download. So I will pause the recording here, and then we'll finish up those tickers.